Now let's go back to the security issue, where the Senate has announced plans to hold a closed-door briefing on the United States airstrike carried out in Sokoto State on December 25th, citing concerns over legislative oversight. Now we're joined by a political and security analyst, Dr Aminu Hayatu. Many thanks for joining us, sir. How common is it for the National Assembly to be bypassed in a military operations like this? Mr. Hayatu.
For having me. And I think it should be understood that it is becoming a common practice in Nigeria. There are a lot of measures that were taken by the Nigerian executive, led by the president, and then, action taken by the Nigerian military, either as joint operations or as solo operations with other security agencies in Nigeria. That the Senate itself, is not aware about, despite having multi-layer committees across the National Assembly and the state representatives. This has become a common practice. The only reason why this one became so alarming is because it's an airstrike that involves, an external actor, operating in collaboration with Nigerian security operatives. And you could remember that when the airstrike actually happened, there was an announcement by the foreign minister that they are aware of this, in collaboration with the US. And I think this is a very wrong way of, addressing security issues that are serious, that need the clearance of the Nigerian National Assembly before they are conducted. And you could see that because of the reason of the failure of, following the standard operating procedure, there has been a lot of cry, because of the way that the airstrike happened, the mistakes that are involved, and even the destruction that has happened, which really shows that there is a serious systemic failure in the way that this operation has been carried out. And the National Assembly normally should have queried this much earlier, than now. It's coming at a very later time when a lot of developments have happened afterwards, which I don't believe that this closed-door meeting would yield any fruit, because it's not going to reverse what has already happened, and I don't think it's going to send any signal, in the future.
Right. So what would you say is the constitutional role of the National Assembly in approving or overseeing foreign military operations? And like you said, why are they talking about it now and not earlier?
Yeah, because the usual way that things are done in Nigeria, especially even in the National Assembly, is a reactive approach rather than a proactive way. It is supposed to be that the executive arm is in consultation with the National Assembly. Remember, they have, oversight committees that are responsible for liaising with the executive arm, to be able to talk about these modalities and to talk about the strategies and talk about the implications, because they are the representatives of the people. All this is not happening, and it is not happening because there are lapses in the way that the relationship between the executive and the legislature is structured in Nigeria. Not necessarily, the legal procedure, but also the implementation of what is contained in the Nigerian Constitution is grossly violated on many grounds, and this is not an exception. That's why we are seeing this. The National Assembly mostly reacts to these issues when there is seen some implication out there arranged, and then it doesn't yield much fruit.
Right. So from a security standpoint, how might these airstrikes, impact Boko Haram, banditry, terrorism, and other threats in Sokoto region?
No, before that, we have to look at it, from the angle of breaching the sovereignty of the Nigerian state itself. It is a serious implication for Nigeria to, that the Nigerian state is getting involved in a serious, security commitment, like launching airstrikes within the Nigerian territory without the approval of the representatives of the people. The implication is that it is an approach that violates the civil, aspect of this collaboration between the security agencies and the civil requirements that are supposed to be taken into cognizance before, operating in that direction. And what it means is that we are likely to see more of this if serious action is not taken. And I think there is a serious allegation against the Nigerian legislature in terms of, being rubber stamps of the executive. So the executive does not see that, there is the need for the approval of the legislature before they can go ahead. And because they are aware that there is no sanction that will follow this. And there is something that actually need to be considered. That is, if this airstrikes, the implication is that now Nigerian security is at risk, and any time we could see more of these airstrikes without consideration for implication in terms of the way that things happen. So it is a serious breach that must be taken seriously. And I'm afraid if the Nigerian National Assembly could do any magic, to change the psyche of the executive in terms of the way they see them as appendage of the triangular system rather than a necessary arm that must give approval before such kind of attacks, take place.
Right. Like you mentioned earlier, it's like Nigeria is more reactive than proactive, and now the legislature is saying that they were being bypassed in such decisions. What is the level of disaster do you think that is going to happen between, the coordination between the executive and the legislature in future security operations? How much disaster do you think we'll be looking at if it continues this way?
This is just a testing ground. In security theory, there is what we call, testing ground. It is normally used to test the reaction, of those who are either stakeholders or are involved or are concerned. And now that, they have that kind of operation has taken place, and there's no consequences for that except to go into a closed door, which I don't think is going to actually yield any result. The implication will be that subsequent attacks might endanger the lives of innocent civilians, because we've seen mistaken airstrikes, how damaging they have been to some communities, in the past. And with the military, in few instances, taking responsibility, despite the gross damage, and in many other instances, refusing to take responsibility for that. And that is even the way and that is the implication of not consulting with the National Assembly for clearance to do that. So we are very likely, if this trend continues, to see, a much bigger implication, right, which will gulp the life of many innocent civilians, especially in the hinterlands where these attacks, are targeted in the name of, tackling kidnapping and banditry or Boko Haram. Right. Because these people are enmeshed in communities with other civilians that are innocent, and we will not be able to see what we're going to see.
Okay, well, Mr. Aminu Hayatu, thank you so much for joining us and giving us insight, security insight on this situation. Of course, we'll follow up and see how it turns out. Thank you, appreciate it.